It's January 7th, 2013, and I'm making a brief video now just to show you how I incubate and how I brood my chicks that I hatch at home. Some of you have been asking me questions about incubators and things, and my advice is to follow the instructions that came with your incubator, because each incubator module is different from the next, but the kind of theory and the basics of incubating is pretty much the same for every incubator. You incubate your chicken eggs for 21 days. You want the temperature set to about 37.4 degrees Celsius. Doesn't matter if it gets a little bit lower than that at times, but if it gets hotter than that, it can cook the eggs. So try not to let it go above that. But if it drops down for that for small periods, it's not an issue. But it is an issue if it gets higher than that, because it can cook eggs. I use an Octagon Eco 20 incubator, and this is capable of holding 20 eggs at a time, 20 chicken eggs at a time, about 15-16 duck eggs at a squeeze. And at the moment I have 9 silky eggs in there, which are due to hatch today, and some of them actually have signs of cracking on the shells already, which is an indication that the chick's going to hatch within the next 24 hours or so. So this incubator is quite simple to use. Put the eggs in using egg dividers, and then just before the hatch date you take the dividers out so that the eggs are free to move around. For the first 19 days the eggs are in this incubator. The incubator is on a cradle which gently rocks the incubator from side to side, turning the eggs automatically. If you don't have an automatic cradle with an incubator like this, then you have to manually turn the eggs twice a day. This is to exercise the embryos within the eggs. And the controls on this incubator are quite simple to use. There's a power button on the top, power light on the top here. When the light is flashing, that indicates that the correct temperature the incubator is set at has been reached, and it's maintaining that temperature. If the light is on constant, then it means that the desired temperature hasn't been reached yet, and the incubator is still trying to warm the chamber to the desired level. There is a thermostat inside, a thermometer inside, and as you can see on here, this is currently on 37 degrees. This is slightly cooler than desired, but these eggs are going to start hatching today, so it's okay if it drops down a degree or two just before hatching. It's actually kind of beneficial, because what you don't want is for your chicks to cook when they're hatching. Hatching is quite hard work, it's quite arduous exercise for the chicks, so if you have it too hot it can exhaust them. So having it at half a degree cooler or a degree cooler during hatching is fine, but for the majority of your incubation period you want that on about 37.5. There's a little vent here. Now normally I have the vent set to about halfway. This lets the moisture out of the incubator chamber and allows the excess moisture content of the eggs to evaporate out. But close to hatching you want that to be 2/3 closed, because you want to reduce the amount of water vapour evaporating from the chamber. You want high humidity in the chamber. High humidity. The reason you want high humidity is because it stops the amount of evapotranspiration from the egg shell, so the chicks inside don't dry out. Also, if it's humid in there, it kind of makes it easier for the chicks to hatch out. Some people think it softens the egg shell slightly. The temperature control on here, I've took off the there's a plastic cover that fits on here. I've took off the cover. You can see where the power lead goes in to the heating element, and this little button here is what you use to control the temperature. And half a turn is about a degree. difference. So you put a little screwdriver in there, that red button, and you turn it left or right. If you turn it half a turn, there's about a degree difference. So you kind of turn that until you get it to the right temperature, and it means you have to quite regularly check the thermometer to see what temperature it's set at. Once the chicks hatch, I then transfer them to a brooder chamber. And this is my brooder chamber here. And all this is really simply is a storage box from IKEA or Homebase or B&Q or something like that. I've drilled some ventilation holes in there. I've put some ventilation holes in the lid as well, so that the chicks can breathe. And this is a heating unit. So this has got a pad on the bottom, the black pad on the bottom, which generates heat. The chicks sit underneath that element, and it warms them in a similar way that they would get warm if they were sat underneath a broody hen. On the floor of the box, I have some non-slip matting. This is really important to use if you're using these plastic boxes, because the floor of the plastic box is slippy and chicks can slip on them, and they can quite easily develop splay legs. This matting gives them a grip. It helps to prevent splay legs. On top of the matting, I have a light, thin layer of sawdust or wood shavings. This will soak up the droppings of the chicks and will get cleaned out quite regularly. I then have a food dish. These food dishes are fine for small chicks. They can climb in, they can quite easily climb out. I do not like the water dishes that are similar to this model though. The reason is that they very quickly get full of debris from the chicks scratching about inside the box, and they constantly get clogged up and the water isn't drinkable. So to start with, I give my chicks just a little tiny dish of water at first, just to make sure that they can drink. And then what I do is I try and wean them off that, and I put a bottle drinker in there. And this bottle drinker is just a sort of drink that you would get for guinea pigs or hamsters or rabbits. Has a little teat with a ball bearing in it. The chick pecks at the teat and it gets a drop of water. And I've discovered that using this to water your chicks is less messy and less maintenance than having a dish or having a typical kind of a water container like the feed container. So once the chicks hatch, they go in here. I put the lid on to keep the heat in, to keep them warm, and they will stay in this box for 2, maybe 3 weeks, and providing it's warm enough outside, I will then pop them outside into a small aviary, or small hutch, and then once they're fully grown, they will then join the rest of the flock outside in the big coop. And that's how I rear my chicks.